All right, let's just jump right in. There's this idea that's, well, it's everywhere in our culture. It's powerful, sometimes even a little dangerous. I'm talking, of course, about the alpha male. You know the story, right? We've been told this for decades, that in any group, whether it's people or animals, there's a top dog, the toughest, most aggressive one who gets everything, the power, the best stuff, you name it. It's this promise, this idea that being aggressive is the path to success. But what if that whole foundation is shaky? What if the science that this is supposedly built on is just a giant misinterpretation? Because spoiler alert, it really is. We're going to dig into how one single idea got so twisted that it's been misleading, well, pretty much all of us for generations. So let's get into the myth itself. And here's the crazy part. The whole alpha male thing did come from real science. It started with actual studies of animals. The problem? The version that's out there in the wild, the one we all think we know, has almost nothing to do with what the science really found. Yeah, that picture you have in your head right now, the snarling alpha wolf keeping everyone in line with brute force, it's just wrong, completely wrong. And to understand why, we've got to play detective and go all the way back to the source. Okay, so let's unpack this lie of the wolf pack. The whole story, the very origin of the word alpha in this context, it doesn't begin out in the snowy wilderness like you'd think. Nope. It starts somewhere very, very different. So check this out. It starts in the 1940s. A researcher named Rudolf Schenkel is studying some wolves and comes up with this term, alpha animals. Then jump forward to 1970. A biologist, Dave Meck, writes the super popular book, The Wolf. And bam, the alpha male idea explodes into pop culture. But here's the wildest part of the story. Dave Meck, the guy who made it famous, has spent the last few decades trying to take it all back, trying to correct the record he helped create. And right here, this is the fatal flaw. The original study, it wasn't on wolves in the wild. Not even close. Schenkel was watching a bunch of random, unrelated wolves that had been thrown together in a zoo. So don't think natural family pack, think more like strangers stuck in a prison yard. Of course they're going to act weird. This really breaks it down perfectly. See, in that captive pack, you've got a bunch of strangers constantly fighting for dominance. It's a totally artificial, high-stress situation. But out in the wild, a wolf pack is just a family. The alphas, they're just mom and dad. The rest of the pack are their kids. There's no violent overthrow for the top spot. The young wolves just grow up and move out to start their own families. Simple as that. So, here it is. This is the big aha moment. The term alpha wolf, when you're talking about wolves in their natural habitat, is basically meaningless to scientists. It's not a real thing. I mean, think about it. You wouldn't call a human dad the alpha male of his family, would you? It's the same thing. They're just the parents. And just listen to Dave Meck himself. This is the guy whose book started it all. He and the rest of the scientific community figured out pretty quickly that the original study on captive wolves was flawed, but it was too late. The idea had escaped the lab and was just out there. It became a cultural monster. He's actually tried to get his own hugely popular book to stop being printed just to stop the myth from spreading. All right, so the whole wolf alpha thing is a total myth. Case closed. But what about animals that are a little closer to home? Let's do a reality check with our closest relatives, primates. Get this, we share 98.7% of our DNA with chimps and bonobos. That's insanely close. So if we're going to look anywhere in the animal kingdom for clues about our own social lives, this is definitely the place to start. Now let's be fair, chimpanzee groups do have dominance hierarchies. That part's true. But the idea of a chimp alpha being just the biggest, meanest bully who bosses everyone around, that's a cartoon. It's nowhere near the full, complex story of what's really happening. So what does it really take to be a high-ranking male chimp? Well, it's less about being a thug and more about being a politician. You have to build alliances, have friends who have your back. You need to be empathetic, break up fights. You even have to be generous, sharing food and playing with the little ones. It's all about building goodwill. It's a social game, not just a fistfight. So really, when scientists who study primates look at what makes a male chimp successful, it boils down to a pretty simple question. Does he have friends? It's not about being the alpha. It's about having strong social bonds. That's the real key to power in their world. Okay, so the whole dominance is everything model doesn't really work for wolves, and it's way too simple for chimps. So, what about us? How do we humans get status and influence? Well, researchers say there are basically two ways we do it. First, there's dominance. That's the classic bully approach, using fear and intimidation to take what you want. But then there's this other path, one that's often way more effective for us, prestige. This is status that you earn. People give it to you freely because they respect your skills, they admire your knowledge, and you're willing to help the group out. Okay, let's tie all of this together. What does this actually mean for us in the end? So here's the final verdict. The whole pop culture alpha male thing, it's a house of cards. It's built on bad science about stressed out zoo animals, and it totally ignores the much more relevant, much more complex social world of our actual primate cousins. And this leads to the most important point of all. Look, we can learn a lot from the animal kingdom, but we're not just animals. We aren't locked into these simple biological scripts. We have this incredible ability to step back, to think, and to actually choose how we want to act and who we want to be. So in the end, the science doesn't give us an instruction manual. It gives us a choice. Are we going to build our world around the idea of dominance, of fear and intimidation? Or are we going to build it on prestige, on mutual respect, on real, genuine human connection? That's the question, and it's one that we all have to answer.